Alrighty, welcome back everyone. We just gave my predictions for the Big 12 this upcoming year. I do have the Kansas State Wildcats winning that thing, and it's going to be a crazy conference that is going to have a ton of twists and turns, but I do think Avery Johnson and the Wildcats come out on top. But let's get into some programs that are just really starting to click, and that is a dangerous reality for pretty much everyone around them. And there are a couple of teams I want to break down here. I got 5 here, but frankly, I could go deeper than this if I need to, and might just in a segment coming up over the next couple of days. But let's get into this, and let's talk about Tennessee first, because Tennessee is a little bit different of an example where they really haven't been that far off. You know, you look at this Tennessee team, obviously it has not been the result that they've wanted for the last about 20 years, but the reality is when you look at this program, there are so many things there. There are so many things in Knoxville that can be utilized that just haven't been in the past couple of years, and since Josh Heupel has shown up in Knoxville, it's been different. That's just the reality. He showed up in 2022, they made noise immediately. Hendon Hooker was a Heisman candidate and maybe the Heisman favorite when he went down. Tennessee was a team that was heading possibly to a playoff at that very moment. So there were a lot of things that were happening that 2022 season that kind of just laid the groundwork, is the best way to put it. It's something that kind of opened a lot of doors for them and got a lot of people around that program to believe in the head guy. And that's the number one thing when you're talking about college football today, is you have a ton of stuff to figure out, and you have a ton of different people that are going to help you figure that out. If those people aren't buying into your program, you have a problem. Whether it's the boosters or the administration, and we've talked about alignment a lot. That is a huge thing in college sports right now, because there is a lot of red tape that you have to get through now that you didn't have to get through 5-10 years ago. So I do think Josh Heupel opened a lot of doors with that 2022 season, but this would be the year where they really open things up. I think this would be the year where they prove everyone that they're not just a team that popped up in 2022 and then kind of shrunk back into the darkness. They're not a team that is going to be a pop team. They're going to be here to stay, and this is a really good opportunity to figure that out. This is a really good opportunity to kind of prove that to everyone, and Nico Iamaleava is absolutely a guy that can make that happen. The defensive side of the ball is the other side that I think has been remarkably good. Tim Banks over there as defensive coordinator has done a great job with this defense, and on the recruiting trail, they continue to get better. They continue to find guys on the recruiting trail that, frankly, they just wouldn't have got a couple of years ago. They wouldn't have got 5 years ago battling Alabama and Georgia and all of the different SEC teams. Now they're getting those guys, and they're bringing them in at a pretty impressive clip. So I think it's one of those teams that maybe you don't look at right now as a huge team because, frankly, for the last 20 years, they haven't been. But I do think they are a program that can be great. There's no two questions about that. You look at so many different things that can happen with this program and so many different buttons that can be pressed that haven't been in the past. There are so many things that they can do, and I think they could be an SEC team that you will look at pretty much every year in Atlanta, or you look in the college football playoff and they're there every single year. This is a very dangerous program, and frankly, they're starting to hit the buttons that no one before Josh Heupel has pressed. So it's going to be huge to watch the next couple of years, and frankly, this year is a huge opportunity for the Volunteers to kind of just prove that they're here to stay, prove that they aren't a pop team in 2022, prove that they are a team everyone's going to have to worry about for the next 10, 20, however long you want to put a moniker on that. But let's move forward to another SEC program. The Auburn Tigers is a little bit of a weird one as well, because when you look at this program overall, they've had pop years. There's no two ways about that. 2010, obviously winning a national title. 2013, a really remarkable team with Nick Marshall. 2019, before that LSU game, was a really, really fun year for them as well. So they have plenty of years where you see the potential in this program, but stringing them together has been really hard. And the reason for that is very, very obvious. Nick Saban was over there in Tuscaloosa and made everything just really hard for this team, but he's gone now, and the door is open for the first time pretty much since 2009, so you have the ability to make some noise here. You don't necessarily need that Luck or Cam Newton that you had in the past. You have plenty of ability to get your footing and play on the same footing as Alabama for the first time in quite some time. So I think Auburn's definitely taking advantage of that. I mean, they're dominating the state of Alabama for the first time in a really long time, and that's a huge deal for a team like Auburn to be able to do that. That's why I'm worried about a team like Penn State not doing that up in Pennsylvania right now. So there are a number of things going right for this program. You bring in a guy like Cam Coleman, Perry Thompson at the wide receiver positions, someone like Walker White at the quarterback position I think is going to be huge for this program, and I think when you look at all of this different stuff going in Auburn's direction, direction, there's an opening here where whether it's Hugh Freeze that kind of walks through it or the next head coach, I don't know, but I do think there is an opening for Auburn to be a really dangerous team and to be a team that they're going to have a real problem dealing with in the future. So I think when you look at all of the different things going into this year and beyond in Auburn football, Hugh Freeze is hitting all the right buttons. He's doing all the right things, and he's using this opening that they have at Alabama to his advantage. So it'll be awesome to watch that team develop, but overall, I think a lot of things are going right, and frankly, it's going to be really hard to stop this team if they really get rolling. Another team I want to talk about here for a second is the SMU Ponies. I think this is a team that I've talked about already a little bit, but the NIL world leans into SMU. That's just the reality. The NIL world is definitely something that SMU has been waiting for quite some time, and they're finally back at the big boy table. They finally got into a Power 4 conference, which is the big time thing for this program. That's what they've always needed, and they finally have a seat at the table. They finally got into the ACC, and it's going to be dangerous for about just everyone in the conference and everyone in the country, frankly, because they are in the middle of one of the most talent-rich areas in the entire country in Dallas, a smaller college, so that might be a little bit held against them when you're talking about recruiting, but overall, this is a program that's not going to have too much trouble finding the talent. Now, getting that in-house is going to be a little bit of a fight. You know, you have to battle with Texas and Texas A&M and all of the different teams in your conference, but overall, when you look at what they can do just staying in that city, it's going to be special. There's no two ways about that. I think this year is going to be huge for this team because you have a chance to just prove that you belong. I think a lot of people walking into this year in the ACC are looking at the three teams walking in and aren't necessarily thinking about them too much. But SMU can absolutely make some noise this year. Frankly, I'm going 10-2. So obviously, I think that they're going to do that. And if they can do that, the pocketbooks are going to open even more. And that is a scary reality for just about everyone in college football because the pocketbooks are very deep in Dallas and at SMU. So I think this is going to be a very fun team to watch and overall a team that definitely is going to have plenty to say in the ACC this year and beyond. But let's get into UCF, and this is a very, very interesting team, kind of like SMU, where you're just smack dab in the middle of a really, really good spot. You're in Orlando, and there is not a ton of cities across the country that have as much talent as Orlando does. Maybe Dallas, Houston, Atlanta, you could argue, but overall, there's plenty there, and there's plenty that they can tap into and do really, really remarkable things. Obviously, in 2017 was the remarkable year for this program, went undefeated with Scott Frost and Mackenzie Milton, and declared themselves national champions, and people kind of laughed that off. They didn't necessarily take them very seriously, but Gus Malzahn has this program back at the Big 12. They have them back at the big boy table, or at the big boy table for the first time, and they're definitely doing plenty of stuff to make this thing happen very quickly. Obviously, bringing in a guy like KJ Jefferson to lead your offense is huge. I've called him the great value Cam Newton. It's not an insult to him, it's just how good Cam Newton was. But the reality is this is a really, really fun program and one that absolutely is going to make noise in recruiting, and particularly in the transfer portal. It seems Gus Malzahn is going to attack that pretty aggressively. So this is a dangerous program, and frankly has been for a very long time, but just hasn't quite done the things that you need to do down there to make all the right decisions. And when you're in the AAC, there's only so much you can do. Now you're in the Big 12, and you can definitely make some more noise, and Gus Malzahn is doing exactly that. So very much like UCF, although I don't think 2024 is going to be super advantageous for them. I think beyond, they're going to make plenty of noise. But now let's get into Rutgers, and frankly, it's just Greg Schiano. He showed up there, and he instilled a culture, instilled a drive in this team that wasn't there before. Because frankly, I would turn on my TV, and if it was a Big Ten game with Rutgers in it, I assumed they were going to lose and turned it off. At least for the majority of my childhood, that's the way that it worked at Rutgers, and that's not the way it works anymore. Greg Schiano does not have his guys showing up to any game across the entire season where they don't think they can win. Because of the confidence that he instills in this team, it opens so many doors for this program, and there is going to be a big thing here in talent acquisition. You're not exactly in the greatest place in Piscataway, New Jersey to get a bunch of 18 to 22-year-olds to join your program. That being said, winning cures all. Winning is the thing that opens so many doors, and there are a number of different areas that they can go into, whether it's Pennsylvania or Maryland or Virginia or New York. There are plenty of different, states that they can just dip their toe into, grab a couple of guys, and keep moving on. They're 20th in the recruiting class rankings right now, which would be their highest finish in 2012 and their highest finish ever in the 247 rankings. So this is a remarkable program, one that is moving in the very much the right direction, and one that can really capitalize off this year. With the realignment and all the teams coming in and the doing away with divisions, all of that different stuff, they have openings where they don't have to play Ohio State, or they don't have to play Michigan, or they don't have to play Penn State, and they're going to be able to get a couple more wins where it used to be they would get blown out on a Saturday. So overall, this is a team that I think is going to make some noise. I think is going to be kind of a problem for the next couple of years, and maybe won't win this conference or do anything crazy, but is going to be one of those teams that you turn on the TV on a Saturday and they're giving Ohio State a fight, or they're giving Michigan a fight, or Penn State, or Oregon, or one of these really good teams in this conference, and at some point, they might just pop and make it into the playoffs. So I very much like this team, and I think they're going to be a very dangerous team this upcoming year. But overall, those programs are absolutely just the tip of the iceberg. There are a number of other programs that are really starting to click right now, and definitely could have really good futures in the future, but let's take our last break here, and when we come back, we're going to break down my hot take Thursday. I have a take about rotations that I think is going to decide the national title, and we'll break it down right after this, so stick with us.